Hi, welcome to That Reminds Me Of,
a podcast about film and the films that remind us of that film.
You're here with Baron and the Doc.
And the Maestro.
Do we need another drink?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Well, here we are. We've just had an episode about Thor, Love and Thunder, but an episode isn't enough to contain all we wanted to talk about.
That's correct.
Our guest, Sean, the author is dumb.
Sean Mackaay from The Author is Dumb, and also a whole series of books that you have on. I looked up the list on Goodreads. There's actually more books than I knew.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us, Sean.
Thank you for having me again, guys.
Tell me if I've got this list right. I've got Endless Cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Don't Look the Bastards in the Eye.
Yep.
A Few Bastards More.
Yep.
Disintegration.
There's a book that comes before that. It's called
because Disintegration says Bastards Book 4, but on the list I couldn't see the third one.
This sounds a lot like a series.
It does. 4 Bastards books.
So the third book's called Your Brother is Autistic and Other Letters from a Bastard.
Beautiful. I didn't know about all of these. And then of course there's Dirt Cheap Guide to Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know about that. Which I need to know a little bit more about. And then most recently, the thing that we've talked about is that you've been doing this Substack thing where you basically you're writing a book chapter by chapter and inviting people to follow on the journey. It's like unedited. It goes up. You read it as it's unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
And it's finished. The book now, 36 odd chapters. Something like that.
About that, 44,000 odd words.
44,000 words. And between that, also some of the stuff I took a lot of value from was just your thoughts on writing and the process of writing that you were releasing between the chapters. That was fun.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, I just want to ask all of these titles that you've just said, where can we find them? And, how do we download? Where are they available? Just because historically people tune out after a minute or two of our episodes.
Get it in early.
I just want to get in early.
Yeah.
Where people go to see your stuff.
Amazon.
Your stuff.
Just go to Amazon. If you were in Perth, I would send you to the wonderful Crow Books in Eastvic Park, or to Planet Books, which is now in Northbridge. But for all other people, those sensible ones who don't live in Perth, just go to Amazon.
So are they hard copies in Perth and soft copies on Amazon?
Well, you can get hard copies from Amazon
as
well as.
Isn't Crow Books just like one of the best bookstores?
It is. It's absolutely amazing. That place is fantastic.
Yeah.
The people who run it are incredible. I will plug them in any venue I possibly can. They're amazing.
You know the way you walk into a bookstore normally and it's just like all kind of like the obvious bestsellers at the front. You walk into this place and it's curated from the second you walk in.
Mm-hmm.
You know you're getting a very special selection of books kind of like pointed towards you as you walk in. And like the further in you go, like the more special it gets. You just there's so many gems in there.
Shout out to Crow Books.
Crow Books, Eastvic Park.
Potential sponsor of the podcast. That reminds me of love you at Crow Books in
Eastvic Park.
Eastvic Park.
On Albany Highway. If not, we might sponsor them. That's the other option. Earlier, we were going to sponsor
Evernote.
So it's all on the table.
Partnership.
Call us.
Anyway, sorry, I interrupted that. I just wanted to get that in. But what was your question to Sean? I'm sure you're just about to say something.
I don't know. But I was talking about all the books you've done. Okay, first of all, tell us, how have you started out with writing books? What got you going? Why do you do it? It's not easy. It takes a lot of time. You've got a day job. Like what's the deal?
Do I have a day job? There's nothing quite like being a mid-level public sector bureaucrat. Look, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a filmmaker.
I remember.
That probably would surprise nobody. And I got to about 27 and it wasn't happening. And I went, you know what sucks about making film? needing all those other people, that
Yeah.
you need to produce something. So why don't I just try and write a book? So I did. And look, the reaction to the first book was mixed, to say the least. I know some people who have described it as their favorite book they read that year, and other people have informed my father that the content was so shocking they couldn't finish it.
They went to your father. That's great. They're like, they didn't tell you. They were like, I need to go to the source.
To the father.
Yeah, exactly. You gave birth to this.
Yeah.
It is your fault.
Yeah. Something went wrong. I just want to know that in the raising of this child, something went horribly wrong. And I don't know if it can be fixed, but
and after that, I tried writing a couple of books and they came out wrong, like quite wrong. They just fell apart during the process of making them. And then I managed to salvage them and kind of went, I'm going to do this for a while. And I wrote a series of books and then I retired and for some reason decided to do it again. Look, I don't enjoy writing. It's something I feel compelled to do. Like my brain won't shut up if I don't get it down on the page, which is why I'm able to do something like on my Substack, write a book as well as other articles about, whether it be my most recent stuff, which probably means I'll never be allowed back into the States, or the earlier work where my central thesis was that you shouldn't listen to authors because they have nothing of interest to say.
Ooh.
Is that where the author is dumb comes from?
Yeah.
We spoke in the last episode about Roland Barthes and the death of the author, and I assume that your moniker, it comes from that.
Yeah, very much so. Like, I don't think the author is dead per se. I think the intent of an author is important, but is not the critical element in forming the text of a book. I'll give you a perfect example, right? We'll talk movies for a second, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need talk movies for Alex to understand.
Yeah.
Put it into movie pictures format for me, just to no.
Can you storyboard it?
Can you draw it for me, please?
Okay, so Sucker Punch by Zack Snyder.
Oh, great! You're gonna do it. Great.
He's
great.
gonna.
I'm excited.
Now I don't understand.
So Zack Snyder believes that this is some film about female empowerment, and it's like some feminist epic that he's made, when in actual fact it is almost the exact opposite of that, and it is a film about the male gaze and how terrible it is. And that isn't just through characters in the film, but the film itself and how it treats its female characters. Like it is a reprehensible film. I kind of love it for just how bonkers it is, but it is awful. And yet Zack Snyder, the author of that text, believes that it's about female empowerment. So it's not what an author believes about their work doesn't create meaning within a work. It's this Venn diagram there. Yeah, you're happy? I'm drawing things now.
Thank you.
The Venn diagram between the author's intent and what the reader brings to a work. So it's not that the author is dead, because the author's intent still matters. It just doesn't matter as much as people think it does.
Yeah.
So me telling you what my work means isn't entirely meaningless, but it's not how meaning is derived from that work.
Yeah. Makes total sense.
So the author is still alive, but just speechless.
Yeah. I mean,
misinformed sometimes, or just
just kind of irrelevant. Not irrelevant, but ultimately they have a view, they present it, but the rest of us can work out what it means.
Yep.
The author is almost irrelevant, but not entirely irrelevant.
Yes.
Okay.
The author is dumb.
Okay. The author is dumb. That's a simpler way to say it.
The author thinks they know what they're saying, but they don't.
Yeah.
So, suggestion to the audience, to go to Substack, and search for the author is dumb,
Yes.
and you will find Sean.
So much stuff, so much content in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it ranges from advice on writing to political thoughts about Ukraine to what else? What else is in there?
Recently, because I've been a bit time poor, I've been doing odds and ends type things where I've been railing against children's television because whoa,
Great.
it's the maestro.
No, it's
No,
not.
it was Siri on my
It's Siri on his
on
phone.
my what do they call it? iWatch?
Yeah.
What do they call it?
Just
Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Apple Watch.
iWatch sounds better.
Yeah, it does. What do they call it? Anyway.
Yeah, I've been railing against children's TV and talking about albums I'm listening to, and I've actually been talking about a fair bit of TV I've been watching as of late because I seem, for some reason, to be fitting in more TV than films recently.
I think I saw a post of yours, like railing against current day Wiggles versus original Wiggles.
It's not even just original Wiggles, even up to the Emma era Wiggles. That's fine. They were a band. That's what they do. They play instruments and sing songs, and now they're just talentless hacks. Like, I literally just shout at the TV while my kids are watching.
Wow, it's a Wiggles cinematic universe.
Well, look, I mean, when you roll deep on kids' TV, you just end up thinking about it far, far too much. My eldest daughter loves this show called Butterbean's Cafe, which is about a fairy and her friends who run a cafe, right? The show is garbage, but because I've watched it so much, I've realized that there's some real contraventions of child labor laws at play. Like, these are children fairies. Like, none of them would be in their teen years. Like, they are kids. And yet, for no pay, their friend is making them work in her cafe.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. That sounds wrong.
Yeah, it is.
That's great. That's great. So I have an admission to make. I was speaking to you earlier in the year. I would say February, maybe.
And yet, at the time, you didn't tell me you were doing a podcast.
True. That's true. Look,
there's some trust issues here. But look,
in our defense, we weren't telling anybody about the podcast at that point.
I'm going to test.
Yeah, because it took us a while. It took us about 2 years to tell anybody.
Well, we were crappy, and
still are.
And then we suddenly we hadn't evolved from being crappy, and then suddenly we said we need to tell some people.
It's getting weird now.
We did. Yeah. We thought it was weird, so we told people, but we hadn't upped our game. So we're still in this period where now we have listeners, but we're still not professional.
That's going to go for a long time. So anyway, I was talking to you earlier in the year and saying I'm going to start reading.
Yes.
Lunch Eater.
And
then I didn't for ages and ages and ages, just because I have no good excuse. But I started recently, and I'm a third of the way through. I haven't finished it. I'm only a third of the way through. But can I say, in this first third, I'm enjoying it. Chapter 10 is fucking great. It's great. Just when you get to it, it sort of throws a curveball in the whole thing. The whole world flips upside down. It's great. And everything up to that is so reminiscent of my experience in the public service sector, whatever, that it was making me uncomfortable. I was like,
good.
I know all these people, and it's gross, and I'm freaking out a little bit. So yeah, I just, that's cool to take me back to that world, and all of those characters. I'm looking forward to where it's going to go, and I've still got a ways to go. So
look, something before Sean gets a chance to speak. This is from Lunch Eater.
Okay.
In the early stages, before you need to be a paid subscriber, which it will be, but this is before the paywall comes in. A wise man once said that if you sit down at a card table and can't spot the fish in the first two hands, that you are the fish. I love that line. And then there's the comment that you're either, if you're in the public service, you're either a coward or a sociopath. It's beautiful because it's so true.
Yeah, that is true.
It is.
That is true.
That's
so true.
I'm not sure my intervention was worthwhile there, but I love those lines. Please.
I used to watch people just sit at their desk all day and just click at things, just click at stuff and do nothing. And then I would watch other people just like the sociopaths running around bullying everybody. And both those, it seems to be one or the other. It's like people that are afraid to do anything, or it's people that are bullying, throwing their weight around, and you get them in the same environment, and it's bizarre.
I'm going to put a disclaimer here just in case anybody from my work is listening to this.
You're talking about a different office.
You are a fantastic group of public servants. I love working with you. Our comments do not relate to you in the slightest.
What you can say is, you listener, I'm not talking about you. You're great. It's the other guys. So
yeah, exactly. Look to your left, look to your right. Those are the guys.
It's a work of fiction.
Yeah.
It's a work
of course. Of course. I have found that public servants are the ones who are responding the best to it.
I get it.
So far.
Yeah.
Like a lot of non-public servants say to me, "Oh, it reminds me of Utopia." And I'm like, yeah, well, Utopia is pretty accurate to the public service, but public servants just kind of sit there and go, "Oh my God." Yeah.
But the trouble is that they all think they can spot the fish.
Of course.
As we all think, none of us think
thinks that.
None of us think we're the fish.
No. I'm definitely a shark.
Yeah.
I look around the office, I am the shark.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I really love, I just love the concept as a try-hard writer myself. I love the concept that you're balancing all the normal content that you do, like the writing advice and blah 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 blah, and the talking about our podcast and all that sort of crap, with your own creative endeavor, and the fact of doing that serialized. I think we discussed it. I've been reading The Turn of the Screw in mirroring the serialized version of it.
All right, cool.
And how that was, with the Dickens era and the Turn of the Screw, Henry James era. That's what they did. And it's such a fun way to write, and to do that in a natural way, unedited, really, and just putting it out there, really inspired me. And I just want to do it. I want to do it myself. Yeah, and I just think it's great. And what I've read is awesome as well.
Cheers.
So I just think you're the best. I should have started with that.
You should have. Yeah.
That's good.
We would have retained listeners if you had started with that.
You think so? No, but I do, because we do this podcast and we talk crap about film, which is equivalent to what you do in your blog. But I haven't mastered doing that alongside actually being creative as well.
What I found, because I didn't know how it was gonna work. I didn't know if I'd keep at it for like 2 weeks and then it would all just fall apart and I'd walk away from it, or I'd just churn out trash for a few months and then be like, oh wow, that wasn't the book I should have written. But doing it that way, almost in front of an audience, I found kept me honest. It kept me pushing myself to put it out. It meant that when I wasn't writing, I was, when you're writing, you do that kind of drafting in your head thing. Like I was doing that more often than I usually would, so that what I put in front of people, I'd be okay with them seeing, even knowing that, okay, it's a first draft and I'll probably go back and cut into it. That, people wouldn't look at it and go, why would I pay for your Substack?
Yeah. That's interesting that you mentioned you draft in your head, because one of the things that I wish I could do is that, and I know a lot of writers talk about that, like that they've got it kind of figured out in their head.
Mhm.
I do it to a degree, but then I think my brain is just either I'm just too lazy or my brain is too distracted. Because when I'm walking around doing my day to day, I'm never on task. I'm never like, oh, when I go sit down later, I really got to sort that out. Maybe the occasional idea will pop into my head, but generally, I have to be. It's almost like I have to be there at the computer, turn it on, and
Mhm.
then go. Okay, what am I doing next? All right, let's sort that problem out. I wish I could just be sorting it out in my day to day. It'd make life easier, I think.
See, I wonder if I was more like you, whether what would come out would be better. I know that's a weird thing to say, but I feel like sometimes in my head, it gets to a point where it's perfect. And then when I go to transfer that onto the page, I've thought about it so often and through so much of what I want to write that I trip over sections and I miss out things that, and they just kind of wither and disappear into my head, never to see the light of the page.
Interesting. Well, we'll never know the answer to
No, we won't.
that.
Question: who are your literary heroes?
Joyce, Pynchon, Umberto Eco, Phil K. Dick, early Chuck Palahniuk.
That all makes some sense from
Hmm.
what I read.
Yeah.
I'm a Martin Amis guy, and I know he was
Oh,
influenced
cool.
by Joyce very
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
And
Martin Amis's stuff is cool.
yeah, you've got a little flavour of that somewhere.
Ooh, thank you.
It's a
Thank you kindly.
yeah, it's a little bit, but the way you introduce the characters and give them their own little comic sort of bent that's
Mhm.
memorable. Again, I'm only 2 or 3. I'm the poor man's version of into the novel. Whatever I can get into it without paying anything.
Sure.
But I have good intentions.
Oh yeah.
But even from that, I can see the building of character you've done really quickly in the first 2 or 3. So if anyone's listening, you can really get a sense of what's to come quickly.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
was my hope, is that people would be able to get enough of a taste before I put the gates up, as it were.
Yeah.
Like,
No, you got the timing on that perfectly.
oh, cheers.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks.
good. Yeah. So what happens next? Are you, because obviously you've done this one chapter at a time. You've said up front, it's going to be a bit raw. It's going to be as it comes out. Editing, publishing. What's next?
So I've had a few months to kind of think through the next steps. I do want to do an edit on it, but the book is actually surprisingly close to what I want it to be now. I think there's a character or two that I need to maybe overhaul, and I often have this thing where I find, rather than needing to pare back, I need to add things in. So there's a couple of things there, a bit of tightening around some stuff. So there's not a massive amount, and then I'll just push it out to people. Every subscriber is going to get a copy of the finished work as an ebook, and they'll also get a copy of what I'm calling Lunch Eater Raw, which is kind of this first draft that exists on the Substack, uh, interspliced with some commentary that I'm working on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of that will have appeared on the Substack. Some of it will be new for the collected version.
Yeah. Awesome.
And then I'm going to write a book about a pizza delivery driver who's fighting a samurai battle against the Dominoes, I think.
Wait a second.
Wow, is that 30 minutes or less?
Nah. Do you know what? That film is really bad.
Yeah, it is really bad. Who did that? We talked about that on a podcast. I can't remember who directed that.
Oh God. Do you know what? I would legit have to fact check. I could tell you who was in it, but who made it, I don't know.
It's what's his name from Social Network.
Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg. And
Jesse
I think
Eisenberg,
Oh yeah, I never saw that.
Danny What's His Face is in it as well.
Yeah, I saw it as research.
Oh,
yeah.
I saw it because my girlfriend at the time wanted to watch it, and I went, "Oh, I like the people who were in it." And then halfway through, I went, "Oh, we've made a huge mistake."
Yeah, no, it was a mistake.
Sean, you got any unproduced screenplays that you just have lying around for those years?
God no. What are you trying to buy something off me?
I'm just checking. Just curious. How many in the drawer you got?
None, or
None.
half, or 1.5, or 3/4.
Okay.
Okay. I tried chipping away at this superhero film for like a decade, and I could never nut it out. And
I think I remember you pitching this to me years
yeah,
ago. Was it gonna star Matt Damon at some point? Was that like the like I think it could have Matt Damon in it?
Yeah.
How could you use
Do you know what?
Damon now after his appearance in Thor? Like I don't think he's unusable now. He's been done.
Well, this is true. He's been in superhero films. That's it. He would have worked in it too. Christian Bale probably would have worked in it also.
Not anymore.
Awesome. So
yeah, no, look, I think I spent so much time trying to work that screenplay to life that I just never ended up being one of those failed filmmakers who's like, oh yeah, I've got all these scripts sitting in a drawer waiting to be produced. If only the right producer would see the genius in them. Like, no, like the last draft I did on that superhero film years ago, it was just an absolute mess. Like anybody coming to it today would just be like, okay, yep, this was written by a crazy person. So nothing to see here.
And yet the books have come out of you. Many of
somehow.
them. Yeah.
Somehow.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
What do you think's harder? I mean, not that you can really, they're different, but
do you know what I like about film? Is its storytelling theory stripped to its absolute metal. Like that's why Thor: Love and Thunder doesn't work, is because they lost sight of the fact that when it comes to film, you strip back everything that isn't critical to getting to the finish line. And I kind of love that. But at the same time, I love the freedom to like spend 50, 100 pages going on this weird tangent in a novel, which you could never do on the screen. And if you tried to do it on the screen, one of two things is going to happen. Either it gets made and nobody watches it, or it never gets made.
Yeah.
But that's so similar to the combo we had with Mark Barry.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Who works in a agency and works with people all the time, and then just loves to be able to do something by himself. And that's what you can do in writing a novel, is just can be completely in control of it, and just completely own it, which you've done.
Yeah. I mean, there's an element of collaboration in filmmaking that sometimes I kind of existed for novelists. You know, that things becoming the greater than the sum of their parts through that combined effort, which, just the very nature of being a novelist means you don't get that.
But you get to be in control.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I get to call the shots. There's nobody arguing with me. It's amazing.
Yeah, that is nice. That is nice. And also just because, I'm going through this, the process of working, and you've read an early draft of Locked In, like a really early draft.
I remember it.
Yeah.
I have talked about it on The Author is Dumb.
Yeah, you did. And I knew exactly what you were talking about. And I was reading it. I was like, okay, I can remember that draft. I remember the way it went off the rails. I knew exactly what you were talking about. But yeah, like even now, what am I? I'm now working on the 8th draft of this thing.
Wow.
It's gone through, different hands along the way, lots of different notes. And it's this battle of making the film that you set out to make, but you're also working with a team, and they have to feel confident with this material that they can sell it and that it's going to be a good film. And so there's all this kind of negotiating that needs to happen at the same time as making the film that you want to make and not losing sight of what you set out to do. It's an interesting process.
I mean, there's an intensity to kind of that can be really, really rewarding. That, as much as I love having control and not having to somebody suggesting something and me shouting them down. Yeah, there are times that I would long for that. Absolutely long for it.
Yeah, it's different, isn't it?
Yeah. But also, I would love to read an updated draft of that. I would love to see where you took that.
See where it's gone.
Yeah.
Changed a lot since then.
So would I.
Yeah.
Has Sean read an earlier version than I have?
The
earliest.
Draft 1 or...
Yeah.
I think it was draft 1.
I think so too.
Sean crumps me on every facet of friendship. You just go way back.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, we do.
And there's other drafts of other things that he's read before that as well.
I
think. Yeah.
I've got a question about. I want to know about your writing process, and I know there's a difference between what I've heard referred to as a plotter versus a pantser. Yeah, and a pantser being by the seat of your pantser.
You wrote about this in this one of your articles.
I haven't read that article.
Yeah. Okay, it's a good one.
Several, but from reading just the first bits of the your serialized novel, it feels that you may think otherwise, but it feels fairly developed to me. Like it's pretty sound. You may not think so, but I think okay, he's thought about this, so it sounds.
You're saying it's plotted.
Yeah, it feels plotted.
Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting that you say that because it is, which is quite a change for me because usually I know the start point, the end point, and maybe the midpoint, and then I just go hell for leather, and I just see what comes out.
Yeah.
But this, because I was going to be writing it in front of people and in that serialized fashion, I was just kind of like, let's be smart about this. Like, nobody's going to tune in if for 6 weeks you're writing about something that has nothing to do with anything else in the book. So I did sit down and nutted that out pretty comprehensively. I did find when I got into the second act, though, that I kept sort of pushing back plot points. I could open up my working document and go, that's where I'm up to. Yeah, that can't happen yet. So let's bump that down. And that happened for probably about 6 or 7 chapters.
I want to talk about other stuff.
Yeah.
You had things to fill in. You knew you needed more before you moved to that next plot.
Yep. Precisely.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, but usually my process is just, do I know who the main character is? Do I know where this ends up? Cool, let's go.
Yeah.
And then I just start bashing away.
I would love to do that with a script sometime. I've never done that.
No, don't do it. You'll end up with 20 drafts of a weird superhero film, which you'll never end up finishing.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you know your main character is Matt Damon and it's a superhero, and you know how it ends, that sounds like gold to me already. Right? There's so much gold in there already.
Yeah, it just ended up going to weird places.
Yeah,
it really did. I tried to play with that whole, because one of the weird things about superheroes that like mainstream superhero movies and comic books never seems to deal with is, aren't these essentially gods, and what does that mean? And how does that change the world around us and our belief system if we have gods walking amongst us? And in actual fact, I think the most interesting read of Love and Thunder is something along those lines. It's just, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of that movie. It doesn't make it any better.
Yeah, because you're right. All the people, it's funny. It's always like, we got to save humanity, or we got to save the universe, we got to save a planet, or whatever it is. And there's no you never dive down into that planet to see what
Mhm.
people are thinking about all of this
Yeah.
chaos. It's almost like the opposite of like Deep Impact or something, where you know a disaster is coming and you're focusing on a family and
Yeah.
how they're dealing with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a good point. It completely negates any relevance
Yeah.
to the
Mm.
whole thing.
Yeah. The gods are like fucking the world up all around us, and it's all going to hell. That's an interesting angle. I kind of want to know
Mm.
what an everyday families in New York in the middle of the Avengers is thinking.
We'll never know. Marvel will never let us know. Actually, the start of what was the Spider-Man Homecoming? The start of that film, if that has the potential to move in that direction and be that film, it's just Marvel will never make that film.
Yeah.
Like, they don't care for it.
It's too contained. It's too human. It's getting into human drama stuff that they're not as interested in.
Yeah.
Not on that.
Well, and they wouldn't sell tickets to it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Like,
they know their audience.
But the Spider-Man franchise, frankly, like, is a lot more compelling than some of this other stuff we've been dealing with, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
because you've got a real boy who's also a superhero.
Real boy.
He's a real Pinocchio with his own life and a hot girlfriend, and I'm invested in that. But but Sony's earning the money from that, aren't they? Rather than Marvel. Is that a Sony thing?
I think at the moment it's still a joint holding on the property, and then eventually Marvel will fully take it back. Because of course Marvel sold off the rights to that to Sony because they were going bankrupt in the 90s.
Is that what it
But
was?
that's where the interest is for me, not in all this Eternals, Strange, Thor stuff.
The Eternals is such
Like,
shit.
if they just stick with Peter Parker and the occasional Strange, stuff, then I'll be happy.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
And maybe a crossover with DC, with Spider-Man and Batman. That'd be sorry, Superman and Batman. That'd be good. Just no Godot.
Wow, too many things.
Too many things at once. Sorry, just too many conversations.
And we've gone back to Marvel. We've already killed Marvel. We need to.
Okay, sorry.
We have.
What is so? Okay, you alluded to a new book. Not alluded. You just started talking about a new book, and then
I did. I started pitching it to you guys to see what your reaction would be.
I need to go back to the new book again. So, pitch it to me again because I was intrigued. Can we have a little bit more detail this time?
Okay. So he's a delivery driver that works for a pizza shop called Pizza Ronin, right? And his pizza shop does battles with other pizza shops as if it was feudal Japan.
Wow.
But it's not. It's the modern age, and they deliver pizza in 30 minutes or less.
Is this kind of like a Scott Pilgrim kind of vibe that we're talking about here, or?
Sounds like Stranger Things.
Oh, shit. Yes, Scott Pilgrim's already freaking done this. Okay, new idea. New idea.
We've cracked his idea. No, that's not fair.
It's just the more the tone is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Look, actually, it's an interesting thing to talk about because I guess you guys would both think I'm a comedic writer to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On the surface.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. I find doing comedy quite easily because the way I do it is I just play everything as straight as possible.
Mm.
And for some people, that makes them laugh. And I go, oh, I'm actually quite good at making people laugh. Excellent.
Okay. But I don't suspect that that's your point. I think that's just a way in.
I don't think it's something I'm necessarily trying for in the first place. If that's what gets people in the door, then fantastic.
Yeah.
There's one guy I used to work with who thought I was an absolute riot on the page, and I was like, oh, I was I was trying to be quite serious and dramatic there, but okay, sure. If it sells me books, I'm fine with it. Yeah, so look, it would probably be the same sort of thing. So you would have what some people would find quite a comedic tone in it, while I was trying to tell a serious story about a guy delivering pizza with a samurai sword.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
No, that is a serious story, and we should give it the the
Yeah, the gravity.
gravity that
yeah,
it deserves.
totally. Yeah,
Of course. Yeah, definitely. Because I clearly am as well.
yeah, absolutely.
But I think what I like about what I've seen of your stuff, and this includes both the fiction and all the bloody narrative, the talking about stuff, is that you work on the sentence level, and you construct a good sentence, and not all storytellers do that. Some people will, be interested in the story, but each sentence is not that important. But each of your sentences has its own rhythm and gravity. Even if it's a comedic thing, it's been thought through. So that's what makes me think that whether you're a plotter or a pantser, you think about things, and that's what enables you to write a chapter and put it out to the universe, because you've actually thought quite clearly about each sentence and you're happy enough with how it sounds.
Oh, sure. I think what also helps, and this was a weird thing that started happening in kind of late high school to me, was I find that the way I write is actually the way I talk.
Wow.
So it's quite easy for me to get those sentences down in that way and have the kind of the rhythm in them, because that's how I would just say that sentence naturally.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
It is helpful, yes.
If you ever have to edit yourself in a podcast, for instance, and you realize how long you say how often you say like yeah, cool, and all that sort of crap that's just filler that means nothing.
You say that stuff a lot.
I say it all the time.
Yeah.
I say a lot of other things that we edit out, such as this this few seconds will never make it in.
Oh no, this should definitely be in.
I'm so agreeable that I have to agree with everybody.
You are too agreeable
every time. I just do. Like you can make a point about anything, and I'll go,
yeah, absolutely,
yeah, absolutely. Right. All right, and then I might even say, no, I don't think so. No. But my first instinct is to say yes.
Yeah.
So
no, it's a good trait as a human. It makes him a good bloke
to be agreeable.
Yeah, but
sometimes you got to say
that's cutting. That's
sometimes you got to say no.
That's something that only a grade 2 friend could say.
Someone who's known me for a very long time.
A very long time. We're freaking old, man.
Yeah.
Too old.
Well,
on that note,
I think that's 2.5 hours. That's bordering on ridiculous.
Jesus,
even
that's huge, guys.
Content, I think that's ridiculous.
We have killed it. Yeah.
Anything we need to sort of round out with, Sean stuff?
No, I don't think so. I think
cool.
I think we should say thank you so much, my friend, for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. This has been so much fun. This is great. Literally, seriously, anytime you want to have me back, let me know.
We will. I'm sure we will in the coming, and it won't just be for Marvel films.
Oh, thank God.
Well, if it's for Marvel films, you may be waiting a while, because I'm not sure I'm ready.
Watching them.
I'm not sure I'm ready for one.
No,
again.
We're about to go on a deep dive of Melbourne International Film Festival next, so that'll be fun.
So that will be a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We're going to make them short, because we're seeing a lot of films in a short period of time. So
awesome.
Short episodes.
Well, on that note, let's cut this.
Yep.
And quit while we're maybe ahead. And thank you, Sean.
Awesome.
Good to meet you,
guys. Yeah, you too, Kim. This was great. Yeah. Oh, also, Alex, my folks say hi.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I haven't seen your folks for ever. It's been a long time. I don't know how long it's been. At least 15 years.
Clearly
at least 20 years. Probably 20 years.
Yeah. Oh, easily.
Easily.
if not more.
Yeah.
If not more.
I can't.
It's crazy.
Think in those terms. Too much. Anyway.
Last shout out. Check out The Author Is Dumb, Substack, all good bookstores, etc. Especially in Perth. I say especially.
Especially. I'm gonna steal that.
You know?
Especially.
I don't.
Especially.
Work it in. Make one of your
Especially.
characters say
Yeah,
especially.
Cool.
Call
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
See ya.
See ya.